Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. Starting off with some good news, actually. Minister of Works and Infrastructure, Jerlene John, was on the ground early on Wednesday morning across various areas in San Fernando West and East. A social media post on the ministry's page showed Minister John and a technical team from the ministry's highways and drainage divisions, along with Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, Dr. Michael Dowlath, and Councillor for Marabella West, John Alibokas. The visit focused on areas needing drainage, enhancement, and routine maintenance to help reduce flooding risk and improve day-to-day conditions for residents. The minister and her team visited Bel Air, Gulf View, Coconut Drive, Les Efforts East, Vista Bella, Lady Hales Avenue, and Springvale Paradise and Tarodale, with the technical team assessing conditions and identifying practical next steps, being proactive instead of reactive, like how the PNM has been for the past 10 years when it pertains to when the rainy season is coming up. Jerlene John has always been one of the best performing members of the United National Congress. That cannot be said, for Wayne Sturge, the man who cared so much about Sangre Grande residents, especially in the northeastern settlement during his campaigning. You know, he campaigned with everyone. Even Kamala Prasad says that. Beseeched everyone to vote for her, because when UNC wins, everybody wins, and then turn around afterwards becoming prime minister and calling everybody lawless. Those were the same people you were asking to vote for you, to give them your vote. Right? Give you their vote, sorry. You ask them for your vote, for their votes, and then turning around now and calling everybody lawless. Yes, we do have a lot of lawlessness, and gang cult is a problem in Trinidad and Tobago. But I'm straying from the point. Wayne Sturge has not represented Sangre Grande in any significant way at this point in time. And I don't know if you ever will. And this is why Kamala Prasad says really did make some bad selections, including Wayne Sturge. He isn't even from Sangre Grande, so he knows nothing about our area. A man like Andy Williams, remember Andy Williams was promoting Andy for Grande, Andy Williams of Ground Report. He would have done a much better job. Am I saying he's perfect though? I don't agree with him on a lot of issues. But at the end of the day, I'm quite sure that he would have represented the Toco Sangre Grande area much better than Wayne Sturge, who is doing nothing. All the issues you raised in the northeastern settlement in your videos, I haven't heard anyone say that you have addressed any of those issues since you became the MP for that district. Roger Alexander made it clear that he has no intentions of stepping down. Of course, we know that is you know, Roger Alexander. You're a boss. He said, I'm the Minister of Homeland Security and I will continue to serve my country as long as the Honorable Prime Minister gives me that portfolio to do so. My response: as soon as Philip Edward Alexander made a controversial statement pertaining to India and Venezuela, Prime Minister Kamala publicly corrected him for doing so. I believe she said, what, stay in your lane? Why does Roger have this amount of privilege in this administration? I've never once heard the Prime Minister correct Roger Alexander for anything that he has said, and he has said quite a lot of strange stuff, incorrect stuff, inappropriate stuff, especially recently how he was promoting the idea that a law should be put in place in order to prohibit individuals from publicizing video footage that shows police misconduct while on duty. How many times will he be allowed to make comments which tarnish the image of the government? Roger needs to be replaced and given a junior role in a completely different ministry. I'm not saying to just cast him aside completely. He has a purpose, but not as the Minister of Homeland Security. Commissioner of Police Alistair Guevara has also proven that he cannot be trusted to lead and reform. There's a need for significant reform in the TTPS, people. I usually say disbandment, But that's never going to happen. No political party is going to disband the TTPS completely. So therefore it needs reforming. And therefore he must also do the right thing and resign. But we know he's not going to do that either. Has Kamala forgotten her own words? The voice of the people is the voice of God. That's what she says. Now, I personally don't agree with that statement from a biblical perspective because mankind has a carnal nature, fallen nature. And therefore, our opinions are not the opinions of God. Our ways are not God's ways. Matter of fact, we don't even understand God's ways up to now. We try, and in the future, in eternity, we will learn a little more bit by bit. That's what I'm saying there. All right, so anyhow, now I personally don't agree with that statement from a biblical perspective. But if she really cared about the opinions of the mass population, because that's what basically it does really mean. It doesn't really mean literally that is the voice of God. But it means that that is the opinion that should matter the most, right? Because God's opinion usually matters the most. So that is what she was really trying to say or imply. Or I guess that's what that phrase usually would probably imply. I just don't like how they're putting God into it. But if she really cared about the opinions of the mass population instead of a few online activists, she would relieve Tanku and Roger and a few others. Even Padaras, I believe, needs to be replaced, people, right? So she would relieve Tanku and Roger, especially Minister of Finance and Minister of Homeland Security, of their duties. All these taxes, fees, fines, and draconian forms of crime fighting are not part of UNC's traditional democratic style of governance. Prime Minister Kamala Persaud says at this point in time, I don't know if you have become an agent of the PNM, because right about now, the UNC is losing any sort of viability to be able to win another general elections anytime in the future, unless there's a whole change of that slate, that whole part of the United National Congress that supports the Kamala Persaud group or team. That entire thing will need to be changed. All hands on deck. Minister of Homeland Security Roger Alexander has announced that all police officers will be called out, even those who are on leave during the carnival season, to ensure optimum protection for all. Yeah, protection for like how you're protected. No, not you, but the police protected Joshua Samaru and his wife. Yes. He was speaking at the UNC's media conference on Wednesday. My response, all hands should be on deck to call for the resignation of both Roger Alexander and Commissioner of Police Alistair Guevaro. UNC's small base here online are still giving the Prime Minister the impression that yellow is still the code. That's the problem, people. She just listening to a few individuals online and she feels everything is fine and wonderful. So UNC's small base here online are still giving the Prime Minister the impression that yellow is still the code throughout TNT. But the reality is that many traditional UNC voters, including myself, are now wondering where our beloved party has gone. We are not seeing UNC anymore. We are seeing PNM in our face. That's what we are seeing. It's like we voted back PNM again. All we see before us is Rowley's twin and a group of PNM agents who are taxing citizens and attempting to infringe upon our rights to expose TTPS misconduct while they are on duty. Kamala Persaud Bissessa, wake up, please, and save the party before it's too late. By 2030, UNC will no longer be a viable option. 1/3, listen to this, people, and this is a fact. That's what happened. Go back and you will see for yourself. Approximately 1/3 of PNM's base left their party this general election in 2025. Most likely because a lot more UNC supporters think independently compared to PNM supporters. So most likely about 2/3 of UNC supporters will leave the party, just remaining at 1/3 of the actual base that just care about yellow is the code. People like myself that have voted for the UNC my entire life. Many of my friends in Sangre Grande, who you would believe are faithful UNC supporters to the end, I'm telling you, have said they cannot understand what Kamala is doing and they do not like what is going on. Other individuals that, as I said recently, even told me, you see why I told you I did not want to vote? They're seeing for themselves that the Kamala Persaud administration is ruling the nation, just like PNM. And in some ways, even worse. You could imagine that. The UNC is actually implementing certain policies that are more extreme than the PNM. Like these double taxes, double fines, everything. I mean, come on, people. Something is up, something is wrong. And those who actually care about the United National Congress and care about our country and do not want the PNM to end up being governing the nation, our nation again in 2030, we need to speak out now. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar yesterday defended a new Housing Development Corporation policy, which has introduced a 5% fee on the transfer of properties within families and a 10% fee on transactions involving the sale of its properties. Everything I'm telling you is fees, 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 fines, fees, taxes. And yet you promised that you were not going to place the financial burden of recovering Trinidad and Tobago on the backs of citizens, and that's exactly what you and Tanku doing. Her defense came hours after former Housing and Urban Development Minister Randall Mitchell posted a document announcing the new policy on his Facebook page yesterday and slammed the government for the change. You actually given PNM valid reasons to criticize the government, Kamla. Honestly, I'm amazed. I never thought this was going to happen. Honestly speaking, I did not think this was going to happen. But even while Persad-Bissessar was defending the HDC move, Housing Minister David Lee claimed to have no knowledge of the policy and launched an investigation into the matter. Asked about the HDC fee hike, especially in the light of her party's previous campaign against inheritance tax, telling you a lot of things she campaigned against. Persad-Bissessar said, from what I've been told, it's that the HDC is simply attempting to recoup some of the taxpayer money that was initially used to subsidize those properties upon transfer, because persons are profiting from transfers of these homes. Everything I'm telling you is just straight. So you don't know that all the time. All right. You can speak to the chairman for more information. However, the government will support any initiatives by HDC to recoup funds and lessen the burden on the hardworking, law-abiding taxpayers. My response was, this is yet another revenue-generating strategy which is being imposed by the Yellow is the Code Kamla Persad administration. Just like how Kamla Persad-Bissessar won the elections by telling citizens that she was going to reduce the fines on traffic offenses. Now, I keep saying something very clear to everybody. You see, the fines for speeding, DUIs, those kind of serious offenses should continue to increase. And a matter of fact, it should become a jailable offense as well if the offense is repeated. But you see, the other minor offenses, she should have kept her word and reduced it. But right now, the only agenda UNC has right now is to generate revenue because, of course, one thing is a fact. One thing is a fact, people. PNM left this country bankrupt. And that is why they're trying to find the monies in order to be able to keep their promises and develop the country. But they're doing it the wrong way. They are going about doing it by taxing the citizens. The same citizens that they were concerned about all the years. Yeah, they broke their promise, people. They will perform better than you, PNM, anyhow you take it, you know. But they are breaking the promises that were made to the citizens, and that is something Trinidadians, they won't forget when 2030 comes. The Integrity Commission in Jamaica says it has developed and implemented a monitoring framework aimed at strengthening oversight of government procurement related to Hurricane Melissa recovery efforts. Yes, make sure that all the monies that are being donated by various countries and lent by others, like in Europe, instead of just actually donating, make sure it actually reaches the people and the programs that will actually benefit the citizens. Especially, I continue to say this, in the rural areas. The framework is designed to monitor the award and implementation of hurricane-related contracts, conduct post-contract audits under emergency procurement arrangements, and assess the use of public donor and relief resources during the recovery period, according to a statement issued on Wednesday. That is really good. I'm telling you, bit by bit, I'm getting to like Prime Minister Andrew Holness more and more, starting to even question about the opposition leader. Yeah, I'm kind of really surprised about that. But the thing about it is, I still hold to my opinion that, and you can see it, for the past, I think it's 2 terms, Andrew Holness was in office, performance was quite mediocre. And therefore, even though I think here a lot of the stuff that he's doing is things that I agree with, I think he needs to step up his game. Guyana's High Court has dismissed the legal challenge brought by the United States indicted businessman Azruddin Mohammed and his father Nazar Mohammed, who accused the Minister of Home Affairs and the government of Guyana of bias in the extradition proceedings. I don't even understand how people could have voted for that man when they have such a good president like Irfan Ali. But anyhow, it was only a couple seats, so I think 1 or 2 seats or whatever. Examining the ruling delivered on Wednesday by Navindra Singh, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, and Anil Nanlal explained during an interview that the court found no substance to the claim that political rivalry had tainted the decision to issue an authority to proceed under the Fugitive Offenders Act. The opposition parties, including the WIN party, the new WIN party in Guyana, they are basically the same like the PNM that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago. They oppose for opposing sake. They're authors of confusion. Unlike me, I will commend when you do good. I will criticize when you do bad. International news now. U.S. Secretary Rubio's recent explanation pertaining to America's plan to have meaningful talks with Iran. Talk, Trump and Witkoff and all of them. He said they will have to include certain things, and that includes the range of their ballistic missiles, the sponsorship of terrorist organizations across the region, sponsorship of Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, the nuclear program, the treatment of their own people. The problem is, and this is what even Amir Safati is realizing now, is that Trump and Secretary Rubio and all these individuals, although Amir Safati is still defending Trump to an extent, but all they have been doing for the longest while is trying to make deals with the Iranian, the Ayatollah. And the Ayatollah has made it very clear over and over again, they are not going to comply with certain demands being made by the Trump administration. And then all of a sudden, the Ayatollah will say, when they're seeing pressure and they're seeing as one invasion might be coming, the Ayatollah will say, yes, we're going to have talks, we will have talks. And then when they have the talks, they say the same thing again. We are not. So how many times Trump will fall for that? How many times Trump will allow Witkoff to say, no, let's have another deal again and again and again and again and again. It's not making sense, people. And the Iranian people are now feeling betrayed by the Trump administration.
As far as the topic of those discussions and what the agenda needs to be, look, I think in order for talks to actually lead to something meaningful, they will have to include certain things. And that includes the range of their ballistic missiles. That includes their sponsorship of terrorist organizations across the region. That includes the nuclear program, and that includes the treatment of their own people.
Should the supreme leader in Iran be worried right now?
I would say he should be very worried, yeah. He should be. As you know, they're negotiating with us.
I know they are, but the protest...
Closing off now with an interesting facts segment. Back in 2013, George Clooney decided he didn't want to wait until he was gone to share his wealth with the people who had been there for him since the very beginning. To pull off the ultimate surprise, he found a secure location in Los Angeles that handled large amounts of cash and drove there in an old beat-up van marked Flores to avoid suspicion. He loaded 14 luxury suitcases with $1 million each, all in $20 bills. Wow! And I'm talking about the amount of bills that would have to be, and drove them back to his house. The next day, he invited a group of his closest friends, known as the Boys, over for dinner and placed a black suitcase at each of their seats. Before they opened the bags, Clooney gave an emotional speech about how much they meant to him, reminding them that he had slept on their couches and borrowed money from them when he was a struggling actor. A lot of individuals forget where they came from. I have a lot of issues with George Clooney when it pertains to politics, and you know, he's on the leftist side of politics. But nevertheless, it's human beings. And this is definitely a wonderful story from him, showing his human side. Nice way to close off the news report. Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.